Hey guys, recently we started our new Top 5 series. The link to the first episode will be somewhere here. You guys loved it. It got a lot of likes and comments to continue the series, and because of that, here's our new Top 5. Today's video is called The Best Cars for $7,500 to $9,000 for Nizhny Novgorod. Why Nizhny Novgorod? I've been here for a while, and believe me, the roads in Nizhny Novgorod are trash. They're just absolute trash. I've seen a lot of snow on the roads, and it wasn't cleaned properly. There were a lot of little snowdrifts and ice crusts where you could get stuck really easily in your sedan or hatchback. Because of this, I'd recommend a crossover with a budget of $7,500 to $9,000. I've dealt with all of these cars, with every single model. As for me, most likely I'd list them in a different order. But don't get mad, because for Nizhny Novgorod, I chose this particular order. So now we have a crossover for $7,500 to $9,000 for Nizhny Novgorod. We're shooting this video in Moscow. I had some business here and I decided not to waste my time and shoot it here. I hope you'll like the video. Don't forget to subscribe and give us your likes. Let's go. So, 5th place. Here we have a car that I've dealt a lot with. This car is pretty cool, but its reliability is slightly questionable. Also, the price of spare parts is a lot higher than for its competitors that were ranked higher. So, the 5th place goes to the Nissan Qashqai Generation 1. For this price range from $7,500 to $9,000, we're looking at the 2008 to 2010 models of the Nissan Qashqai. It's a pretty lively car. Yeah, it's a bit battered, but it's still tough and time-proof, so we could use it and be happy. Another positive side of this model compared to other cars in this top 5 is its options package. And it's the beefiest package out of all our 5 contestants, and that's a big plus. It deserves 5th place because it's equipped with a CVT. It demands better maintenance. You can't drive fast on it. It's hard to check if the previous owner was speeding a lot. And we're looking at second-hand, affordable crossovers today. Because of that, the CVT is a time bomb. If you choose a model with a manual gearbox, for sure these problems won't bother you. But in Nizhny Novgorod, as in any big city with 1 million people, there's such a problem as traffic jams. Navigating traffic jams with a manual gearbox is not convenient, and that's why it's a downside. Another negative thing that I don't like and don't understand in the Qashqai, taking into account that the Qashqai has really comfortable seating for all the cars on this list, one of the best, I would say. And I'm confused as to why my hand is always getting in front of the button. And to actually use the window buttons, especially the ones for the back seat, I need to place my hand like this to find the buttons and actually press them. It seems like a minor thing, but it's uncomfortable. Everyone knows that on the Qashqai and on a lot of modern Nissans, the trim material, although very pleasant to the touch, is not very durable and very fast wearing. It's not really great when you buy a secondhand car with a mileage of like 60,000 miles, but the steering wheel, for example, is already worn out. That's not cool, because if you change the trim on it, that's bad. If you replace it with a new one, it won't last long either, and it'll cost you a pretty penny. Oh, and I almost forgot, another thing about the Qashqai that I don't like, you can't heat the car up inside. And I'm not talking about the engine. The engine's fine. It can heat up to operational temperature as well. I'm talking about the car cabin. I thought it's a problem just for this particular car, but I've dealt with another one and then looked it up online. Many people had the same problem. They install extra pumps or something else. The problem is that for our climate, this is critical. How can you buy a car for $9,000 and drive around the city in a fur coat? It's not right. Those are the main downsides of this Nissan. Also, of course, it's bad soundproofing, blah, 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 another downside. But despite all this, the Qashqai remains in our top 5 at 5th place minimum, just because this model is really widespread, rather reliable, and most of all, it's pretty marketable. You'll be able to sell the car if you don't like it. You just drive safely and don't stress the CVT. All of the other downsides that I've listed, they're more of a personal thing, but I can't place it higher than 5th place on our list here. Now for the next one. Now 4th place. You definitely know this car. It's a very popular model, and I'm sure lots of you will like it. The Suzuki Grand Vitara. The Grand Vitara has a number of downsides. I won't talk about the engine, like the cracking 2.4 units, or the chain on the 2.0 engine. These are fairly well-known troubles. I'll tell you about the things that an ordinary user would or wouldn't like. The first thing is the soundproofing. It's horrible on this model. Even if you compare it to the other cars, it's just at the rock bottom. Even Suzuki admitted this, and in 2008 they allegedly improved the soundproofing of the wheel arches, but the overall soundproofing remained the same. Honestly, don't have great expectations about this car. It looks nice from the outside, but when you're driving it and sitting inside, you get the feeling that you got scammed. Seriously. I paid this amount of money for the car, and I got some of this kind of underdone. Just everything's not made properly. And when the mileage hits 60,000, the car just turns to crap, honestly. I had some experience with this kind of car. My dad had a brand new Niva. I saw how bad it got at 60,000. It turns into total trash. The Grand Vitara gives me the same vibe. When it reaches 60,000, it might require a lot of investment. Why is the Grand Vitara in 4th place specifically and not 2nd or 1st? Because service is quite expensive, but overall the car's good. A big advantage is the 4-speed automatic transmission. It's immortal. I think it's an Aisin A340. It's really immortal. This car is a complete crossover for the city, and it's got another great advantage compared to the other models on our list. It's got permanent 4-wheel drive with no clutches or anything else. It's also got a hill climbing gear and an interaxle lock. And that's really cool because you can still kind of call it an off-roader, unlike the other cars that are on our list. But when we're locally searching for a car for Nizhny Novgorod, the off-roader qualities are not the main criteria. All of our crossovers have cross-country capability, and that's enough to navigate all the holes and bumps, all the snowy mess that I've seen in Nizhny Novgorod. There are really good packages. The one with keyless access is great. It's really nice. Also, we're looking at the 06 to 08 models, maybe even 09. And hey, that's pretty good to get keyless entry. It's also included in the Qashqai. Those two cars are at the bottom of our list, but accessory-wise, they are better than the other 3 cars on our list. Because of that, this vehicle is getting 4th place. For those who have country houses, it's very important to have a permanent 4-wheel drive, a hill climbing gear, and an interaxle lock. The top packages include keyless access, a sunroof, and other nice features like a leather interior and so on. This model has 4th place. Let's move on. 3rd place. This is an awesome and an iconic car for those who know it, the Honda CR-V in the 2-body. I really like this car. I would give it 1st place, but there are a number of things that we have to discuss. First thing, it's really hard to find a second-hand car. All the options have mileage from 100 to 190,000 with multiple repairs, crashed everywhere, and there are just a few on the market. It's not that popular, and it's not a bestseller like the previously mentioned Qashqai and even the Grand Vitara, kind of. But the CR-V? Hell no. At the same time, it's at the 3rd place on our top 5 list. I've driven this car once, and I can say that when you compare it to the Qashqai or to the Grand Vitara, you'll choose the Honda for sure. The CR-V is marketed as a picnic car, and for that reason, they placed a picnic table in the trunk. So you've got a foldable table in the trunk of your car. You get to the place, you open the trunk, you get the table out, awesome. Now you can start your barbecue and use the table. It's nice, but it's not the only reason the car got 3rd place. It drives nice, and it's easy for its size. The off-road capability is pretty good. Another big plus is the trim materials. They're very high quality in comparison to the previous contestants, more reliable and more long-life trim materials. It's a big plus that the plastic doesn't squeak even after a long time on the road. Actually, even if the car is old, you can feel that Japanese quality. This car is really sound and reliable. This car is really big, and it beats both the Grand Vitara and the Qashqai in reliability, but it wasn't well received on our market. The car is really good, but you can recognize that it was made mostly for the American market, not for Europe or for Russia, because even the gear selector under the steering wheel is common for American cars, and Americans like it. We don't have it as much. Why is it only in 3rd place and not in 2nd or 1st place? It's not common in Russia. That means troubles with spare parts. Yes, there are some out there, believe me, but I was waiting between 3 days and 2 months to get some. They're not easy to find here. They also cost a lot of money, like all Honda parts. Corroding rear supports is a pretty common problem. There's also a problem with the rear universal joint cross, but I don't think this will happen to you because in most cases, they've already been replaced. Also, as with the CR-V3, the CR-V2 has the problem of spring deflection. The rear wheels tend to lean to the center, but even this is treatable and repairable. It's not cheap at all, but you only have to do it once. And if you buy a secondhand CR-V, you can rest assured that it's all been replaced already. You won't need to worry about that. This car is really cool, but it's not for our tough Russian life, unfortunately. But if you find one, I guarantee that it'll make you happy for a long time. Let's go to the next one. So, second place and first place at the same time. I couldn't decide for myself which one of these cars deserves the first place and which one deserves the second. And that's why in this part of the video, while I'm telling you about it, I'll make my decision and many of you will make up your minds too. So, here I present to you the first and second place. As you've already figured out, this is a Hyundai Tucson and this is a Renault Duster. Now I'm gonna tell you everything about them. How can you think of even comparing one shitty old car with another shitty car? For example, here we have an old and a reputable car with all these last century technologies developed in the year 2002. Versus a modern, contemporary, 2009, jacked up model, supposedly, but it's not that simple. I feel that this car was better designed. Both of them have done about 60,000 miles, roughly. If you look at the Duster, after this mileage, you can see that they didn't spend very much money on development and design. They spent like 280 million euro on it, and that's just not enough to develop a good car. Because of that, this model has many problems, really, really bad ones. For example, all the faults with this car is aerodynamics. They didn't even fix them. Take these chips on the back arches. It's unbelievable. It's just not thought through. If you look at the Tucson, there's a plastic cover for that. That means no splits, and everything looks nice. Here, they just didn't think of one. The next fault that's also about bad development and design that everyone knows and criticizes are these cracks on the rear wings and on the roof of the car. This Duster also has them. Here they are. The thing is that the body of this car is basically falling apart. It's bad panel welding, and here they just put sealer. And the sealer just starts to crack. End of story. So you're buying a car that's just falling apart. I don't even know how else to put it. It's just falling apart. There's also the absence of plastic. They were saving money wherever they could. Here it looks like a little Soviet AK. The AK has a similar problem in the trunk. There's just metal everywhere. Well, for example, when the haters bring the argument like, how can you compare a brand new Renault Duster and an old Hyundai within one budget? Who would buy themselves this piece of shit? Believe me, this old piece of shit will outlive this new mess. By the way, see, the Tucson has this really cool, nice door. The Renault doesn't have it. It's just the glass. It's a damned useful thing. There are wheels in here. Just a nice thing, this glass. Like on a Touareg. I've always liked this thing here. You can open the glass door separately and put something inside. The Duster doesn't have that option.
Like a little Soviet car.
Also, who likes steps like this one? Look at these marks here. Here's the trace of someone's shoes and broken dreams. Because when you decide to go somewhere in this Duster, you dress up in your white pants and everything's cool and neat. You get out of the car and it's all over. Because if you have white pants, my congratulations, because you're gonna have dirt all over the back of your left leg. That's why I'm wearing black jeans today. I've also cleaned the steps. All the negative things, at least for me, in fact happened in the Duster because they didn't bother to spend more money on design and development. The Duster is a more modern car and its design is more popular nowadays. The Tucson looks like a fish or a frog. The interior of the Duster is more modern, though it's very crappy, but still more modern than in the Tucson. The interior is really ugly. The plastic is standard Japanese plastic. What did you expect? I mean, seriously, the plastic is crappy too. It's just bad here. On both cars, the plastic is crappy. The design's also ugly. The interior design in the Hyundai is just ugly. Well, don't judge. The car was designed like 12 years ago. And this model was designed 7 years ago. It's a 5-year distance. Here, The interior design is a bit more interesting than before, but the plastic is still crap. The seats are even worse than those in the Tucson. The body isn't stiff enough, and it's the main downside of this car. Because of that, the windshields always get broken, because the body is too soft, it wasn't well designed. Take an old, creaking, ancient Hyundai, you won't find that here. The biggest plus in this car is its cheap service. You can maintain this car for literally cents. Everything is very cheap to repair. It's a rare thing to happen, but they produced more than 1 million cars of this model. There were more than 1 million produced. The Duster's got a long way to catch up, but I think it'll reach that number eventually. The soundproofing on the Duster is much better than on the Tucson. If that's important to you, check that out. The settings on it are really nice. You can feel that reactivity. The Tucson is slower. You won't be able to race on that car, and you probably wouldn't want to. It's way less responsive. Well, now that you know how both a Tucson and a Duster in good condition look like, these are the types of cars that match such cities. For Nizhny Novgorod, I think the Tucson is the best option. Within our budget, I mean. The cars in this list, if I thought about them with a cold mind and I ranked them, everything would be mismatched. It could be the case that the Duster wouldn't even make it into the list or would have 5th place. The Tucson would have 4th place, the Qashqai would be in 3rd place, the Grand Vitara would be in 2nd, and the Honda CR-V would be in 1st. But that would be as if we ignored reality and focused just on the cars. And we can't afford that because we have second-hand cars in our top list. So we have to take that into account here. I've decided for sure. After working closely with both cars, I think that 1st place should go to the Hyundai Tucson. You know, I really don't like Renault cars. To sum it all up, I hope that you've also made your own choice. That's why we'll run a poll in the comments. You can vote for the car that you liked, or if you didn't like anything at all, you can vote against everything. You can call me an idiot for choosing such cars. After all, it's my personal opinion, and I think that these cars deserve attention, and they are perfect for Nizhny Novgorod above all else. Don't forget to hit like on this video, because that's what we're looking for when we decide whether we shoot such videos or not. We'll see that you like it, and we'll continue the series. Bye, everyone. And now there's this interesting detail. The Duster from 2013 to 2014, in our price range, it's only 13 to 14 depending on the package, the engine, and so on. And the Hyundai Tucson from 2008 to 2010. It's understandable you won't buy a fresher edition just because they stopped producing them in 2010. It's just so. If you look at it, you'll be able to buy a Tucson for much less. You can get one from $6,200, especially if it's a gasoline model with front-wheel drive and a manual transmission. But we're talking about the best car in this price range for Nizhny Novgorod. And I'll tell you that the Hyundai Tucson will be one of the best just because this particular car runs on diesel and has four-wheel drive. And this adds to the price of the car and adds more and more value when you compare it to its competitors. The Duster also has a diesel version, and that's why it's here. If we take the Grand Vitara, for example, there is no diesel. If we take the Qashqai, it has a diesel, especially with an automatic, but it's almost impossible to find. They're all individually imported. There was no mass import to Russia. If we take the Honda CR-V, it also has a model with diesel and a manual, but it's very hard to find it with a gas engine on the market, let alone a diesel.